Troy, welcome. I'm glad to see you last night, and so glad that Infillion is a good member. Infillion's got a lot. They keep buying companies and being very acquisitive all the time. So we'll hear about that as well. And make sure if you want to take a picture of the QR code, this We Do Empowerment webinar is going to be a really big one, where we have Kate Bowers, who is hearing impaired, yet she has made it to the play for England in the Deaf World Cup, and she's also a COO of our company, Mass Media, in London. Alice Captivate's amazing. Ina buys all the media and planning at ESPN for media. And then Susan is another star, Publicis Canada. So if you want to take a picture there of the QR code to register, I'll give you 6 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then for anybody that's going to be in London or your colleagues or your friends and family, we got a big event coming up in a couple of weeks. And then for joining us if possible, which has become the Davos of marketing, we're going to have major players from MasterCard, from Media Hub, dealing with US, global, as well as Latin America. And Helen, who's the CMO of View, the leading SSP, will also be speaking. And also come to View, we get a 25% discount for the whole event, which is a powerful event. Michael Cassin's supposed to be a keynote. And for those who've been reading the trades, there's been a lot of activity with Michael Cassin in the past 24 hours. And this is what possible looks like. Last year, Elon Musk was there. There I am with the CMO of Hyundai. There's a lot of our members. Upper right and lower right is our member meeting last year. So please join us there. And then of note as well, we're going to have another 500 or so people at the Toronto-based Scotiabank Theatre for our Canada Summit. And then join us if you haven't signed up yet with Noah at Cannes Lions, where we end up meeting a lot of brands and agencies, and we have a little bit of fun. So that is my summary, and now I'm going to turn it over to Troy. Thank you, Troy.
Great. Thank you very much, Barry. Nice to see you all. Let me see if I can share my screen here, Barry. I'm going to
Troy, welcome. I'm glad to see you last night, and so glad that Infillion is a good member. Infillion's got a lot. They keep buying companies and being very acquisitive all the time. So we'll hear about that as well. And make sure if you want to take a picture of the QR code, this We Do Empowerment webinar is going to be a really big one, where we have Kate Bowers, who is hearing impaired, yet she has made it to the play for England in the Deaf World Cup, and she's also a COO of our company, Mass Media, in London. Alice at Captivate's amazing. Ina buys all the media and planning at ESPN for media. And then Susan is another star, Publicis Canada. So if you want to take a picture there of the QR code to register, I'll give you 6 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then for anybody that's going to be in London, or your colleagues or your friends and family, we got a big event coming up in a couple of weeks. And then for joining us at Possible, which has become the Davos of marketing, we're going to have major players from MasterCard, from Media Hub, dealing with US, global, as well as Latin America. And Helen, who's the CMO of View, the leading SSP, will also be speaking. And also come to View, we get a 25% discount for the whole event, which is a powerful event. Michael Cassin's supposed to be a keynote. And for those who've been reading the trades, there's been a lot of activity with Michael Cassin in the past 24 hours. And this is what Possible looks like. Last year, Elon Musk was there. There I am with the CMO of Hyundai. There's a lot of our members. Upper right and lower right is our member meeting last year. So please join us there. And then of note as well, we're going to have another 500 or so people at the Toronto-based Scotiabank Theatre for our Canada Summit. And then join us, if you haven't signed up yet, with Noah at Cannes Lions, where we end up meeting a lot of brands and agencies, and we have a little bit of fun. So that is my summary. And now I'm going to turn it over to Troy. Thank you, Troy.
Great. Thank you very much, Barry. Nice to see you all. Let me see if I can share my screen here, Barry. I'm going to try to pop a deck up here, so bear with me 1 second. Okay, can everybody see that? Wouldn't be a Zoom call if I didn't ask, can you see my screen? That's sort of the old standby, right? Thanks all for joining. My name's Troy Kehoe, like Barry said. I am a principal client partner at Infillion. I've been with the Infillion brand, well, since it existed, which is really only the last 2 years. And I'll kind of get into that just a little bit. Barry mentioned a little bit about our acquisitive nature as a company. And really, Infillion is a collection of companies under one umbrella. We work in out-of-home, digital out-of-home, mobile targeting, geofencing, connected television, and pretty much everything in between. And we are really, like I said, a collection of companies. So I'm going to go through a little bit of that today and how all of that kind of came together and how we use all those products as a subset to do research and measurement and actually provide proof and value back to our clients. So I'm going to start here with a quick slide that kind of outlines the full funnel approach that we take as a company. As I said, we have an engagement side that is CTV focused with a product that some of you might have heard of called TrueX, spun out of Disney and Fox a couple of years ago. Very focused on direct engagement with consumers. We don't charge for any advertisements that don't have that direct engagement. It's a fairly unique opportunity. That is one of the kind of legs of the stool. Gimbal is another one, if you've heard of that. Very mobile targeting focused, focused on display, focused on video, focused on location. That is a spin out of Qualcomm out of San Diego. So a lot of research and development money that went into bringing the location intelligence of that company together. On the out-of-home side, we acquired a company called InStadium, which is actually where my background is in live sports. So we work in digital and some static mediums as well in 450 plus stadiums in pro stadiums and the NCAA in Division I. In fact, I'm leaving right after this to go to the Big East tournament for some client activations at Madison Square Garden. So always exciting things happening there. And then really cross-device and using all of those together is the way that we approach this as a full funnel company. Though doing all of that obviously creates its own challenges, and out of home and digital out of home certainly is not adverse to this, that it is very difficult sometimes to measure and prove the effectiveness of all of this media back to clients. And I don't know about you guys, but I get this request more frequently now than I ever have before. At the start, from a planning team, from a buying team, whoever it is, the question is, okay, how are we going to measure this? What's the proof of performance that we're going to get? What metrics are you going to provide in reporting at the end? That's a critical part of what we do as a business now. And it's always been a difficult thing for out of home, I think more so than other mediums. It's not like we can place a pixel on, an outdoor billboard somewhere and measure it that way. So we have for a long time based this solely on conjecture, and we're trying to change that narrative a bit as a company at Infillion. I mean, we do that really one of two different ways. So I'll take these two approaches kind of separately here. So the first one is the online approach, and we have partnered with a number of different companies. I'm sure most of you are familiar with these: Lucid, Kantar, Nielsen, the major players in the industry. We've done a lot traditionally with Lucid, where we have in the out of home space looked at them for an online approach where we are approaching a potential panel of audiences who have been at a specific place at a specific time. So in the sports side, I can sort of speak to that since that's my wheelhouse. Obviously, when I go to Madison Square Garden later this afternoon, there will be 20,000 people there. And we're looking for a subset of those 20,000 people who were in the place where that advertisement was occurring. And we want to measure that based on knowing that those people were there. What did they see? How did they feel about the advertisements that they saw? Were they aware of the brand beforehand, et cetera? We have a whole panel of questions, and Lucid does a really good job at putting those together. One of the other advantages that we have to this approach is that we can capture device IDs through Gimbal's location intelligence, MAIDs, we call them, and we're able actually to match those up to ensure that the person whose cell phone was in that building with them in their pocket actually was where they say they were. So we're not measuring people who are just looking for, the dollar for the survey or some sort of reward at the end of it. We're actually getting usable, defensible data with this. One of the other ways that we use online is through a survey that we actually came up with internally ourselves called Uplift. This is a single funnel metric, single metric that really gives us the impact of a campaign on a single question. It could be something like what describes how you feel about this brand. What do you think about the advertisement you just watched? We do this particularly with our TrueX product, where we are able to real-time measure viewers' feelings on what they've just seen. And that's hugely valuable to a client who doesn't have to wait, 2 months for an after-action report after a campaign is actually done. It enables them to optimize in real time. And optimization is a theme that I'm really going to come back to through this. We want to use these learnings to make campaigns better. And I think Barry talked a lot yesterday about a rising tide sort of floating all ships in this industry. The better that we're able to measure all of this as a collective, the better off this medium is going to be. The numbers, you mentioned them yesterday, Barry, were fairly staggering for out of home and digital out of home for a very long time. At the small percentage of mix that we are in advertising. And I think the better we can get at doing all this, the more that percentage increases on our side of the business. I won't go through too many of these massive case studies, but I did include a couple in here. There's some interesting ones where this is the type of report that we would provide back. So awareness, familiarity, interest, consideration, intent. This is an example from a CPG brand that we ran a couple of months ago, and you'll see that the lift is there. Sometimes they're small amounts, but our goal is to actually measure something that is showing impact. Here's one specifically for an out-of-home sports brand. This was for a major streaming platform run across the National Hockey League. Many games, I think 200 plus games that were included in this. And we measured on specific subsets. So we'd measure 1 month of the campaign, another month of the campaign, and this was the end result of this. I won't go through all of these in detail, but it really did show the impact of what this medium has. And the goal was not just brand awareness, but excitement, engagement with the fans that were sitting in those stadiums. And this really was a great way to reach them and make sure that that message actually hit home. We were able to provide back to our client proof based on this study via Lucid that that actually occurred. So that's kind of approach number one. I'm going to go into approach number two now, and it's a little bit more labor intensive, and I call it the boots on the ground approach because it is boots on the ground, much less of an online approach where we can do everything in the digital realm. This requires some shoe leather actually at the places where we're measuring this. Again, I'll take a sports example because this is sort of my wheelhouse. We partnered with a company based in New York called Sports and Leisure Research Group. Some of you may have heard of them as well. They do quite a bit of measurement in the sports specific space, concentrate a lot on large event venues and things like that. They do a lot with the PGA as well. And we utilize this to collect a smaller number of surveys because we have a bit more confidence in the defensibility of the metrics that we're collecting. It allows us to have a little bit smaller of a sample weight, but to put more effort into those surveys. So where Uplift was, a single question survey, or maybe the Lucid survey might be 2 minutes, 5 minutes of your time to take a couple of survey questions. This one, we can actually corner people, reward them for taking the survey, and spend time one-on-one with them to actually get defensible metrics on this. We do this in concourses in stadiums. Sometimes we'll do this outside of entrances or exits, ingress or egress. And we're able actually to get very specific results and drill down to specific questions that brands might want asked as a part of this. Here's another example of that, just to sort of contrast with the case study that I just gave, where we used Lucid and an online approach. This was a competing streaming platform, another large platform, where we measured 5 total stadiums where we were running this digital out of home messaging, and showed similar results. And we were able to get, the same metrics of breakdown and recall in familiarity, consideration, et cetera, but actually saw even a larger lift when we drilled down to very specific questions that were important for our brand client to assess on this particular program. For my money, I think there's no replacing the human-to-human interaction that exists within a boots on the ground approach like this. Sometimes that's not a practical thing either. So we've used a combination of these to really provide back the exact KPIs that a campaign is looking for in this. And before we decide which approach we're going to use, we typically work to understand what's important to our client and what they're looking to get out of this in terms of measurement. What do they want to learn from this, and how do they want to optimize throughout the campaign? Proof of value I talked about a lot is really the main measurement metric for us. If you don't periodically measure, it's very difficult to improve your campaign. I talked about optimization before. That's exactly it. The results, however, that we get are not always fully linear. It's not always this was a great campaign or this wasn't a great campaign. There's a lot that you have to kind of take into account, and the results aren't always black and white. And one of the reasons that we're able, I think, to drill down a little bit deeper is because of the location that I talked about before. So Gimbal's history, spun out of Qualcomm as a location tech company, really helps us to drill down to understand who those audiences are that we're measuring. We're able to provide back additional data to our clients that uncovers, where someone might have been exposed to the advertising, discovers what types of audiences in terms of a breakdown are actually seeing these ads. What are the demographics of this audience? Are we able to reach them across other devices to retarget them in the days and weeks to follow? That allows us to track things like attribution. So let's say it's a retail client, and Dick's Sporting Goods is on here, so I'll use that as an example. Let's say that Dick's wanted to measure if people actually are going to buy this New England Patriots hoodie after they've been exposed to the ad there. Well, we can actually capture those device IDs, those MAIDs that I talked about when they're in our geofences, and follow them through that funnel purchase process. We are able to track conversions based on that at a very granular level, and it's able to tell our clients some really important data of how effective these out-of-home ads are being. Again, I love the connectedness of the advertising industry and where I think the roadmap is headed. We talked a little bit about this again at the town hall yesterday. Some people, I think, heard the word integrated And I roll my eyes at it sometimes because I think the industry isn't always as integrated as it should be. There are still very many siloed agencies and siloed teams, and it's frustrating sometimes as someone running media. But we have an opportunity, I think, to link all of these things together. I won't go through all of these case studies in too much detail, but this is a good example of that, where we wanted to measure what the effectiveness was of this campaign in minor league baseball. We ran in, I think, 110 different minor league baseball stadiums with Wade Boggs, who I'm sure most of you are familiar with, a Hall of Famer. And we were able to measure based on these specific survey responses and collect customer data to actually provide back value to our client here on who the people were that were, attracted to these advertisements in the out-of-home space. That's very valuable to them because they had a set of demographic data that they didn't have before of who was being reached by these advertisements. Same thing. This is one for tech real estate client of ours. That's a very specific subset, so you can probably guess who they are. But this was another one where we used an approach with all of our product sets together. So digital, CTV, mobile targeting, out-of-home ads in stadiums. We ran in Phoenix and in North Carolina and some other markets where we were measuring the effectiveness of that out-of-home media using the other digital product sets that we have, able to, for example, set up custom geofences around these sports stadiums, and then retarget them with messaging, not just on their cell phones, but across their full digital footprint. We have a product called XGraph that links those digital footprints, desktops, laptops, tablets, CTV. All of those user IDs are anonymized and randomized, but we're able to use them to target people across their full digital footprint. The goal, again, being top of the funnel brand awareness in the digital out of home space, going all the way down through the lower funnel metrics and actually creating impact and tracking it on the back end. So I'm going to go briefly because I know Barry teased a little bit of this, but some of you might have heard a little bit about one of our newest acquisitions that occurred in late 2023, and that is of MediaMath. I know there's a long history that probably some people on this call have with MediaMath. We purchased the assets following bankruptcy in, I believe, the earlier part of the year, and are now working to stand the platform back up. And the goal for us is really to take the next step as a company into the programmatic space. A lot of what we have talked about to date here with all of the product sets that I talked about before are very managed service. And there's a reason for that. There's a lot of nuance that exists in the product sets that we have. And we have provided sort of that white glove service to our clients for the better part of, I guess, almost 15 years now, going back to the original founding of Gimbal. MediaMath is a new foray for us into the programmatic space. And the reason why is simply this. I don't need to convince anybody that programmatic is a massive rocket ship of growth right now. The digital spend has gone up and down. The programmatic spend continues on that blue line to be really a massive thing every year. And obviously the dollar figures on those blocks continue to increase every year. Same thing with really harnessing digital ad spend as an industry as well. There's a reason why people are doing this. There's a reason why clients are attracted to this, and we need to be a part of that space. Really in walled gardens too, that marketers, as this says, are following performance from partners who help to drive scale and transparency. Programmatic is really a way to do that for us. And we're really taking sort of a hybrid approach to all this with MediaMath, where we're not necessarily going to turn everything over to programmatic, and we're not necessarily going to keep everything as managed service. We have the ability, I think, to be able to create a mix of those and to co-pilot for our brand partners when they need us to do that, whether it's a little bit of programmatic that they're doing on their own as a self-service, whether that's a little bit of managed service that we're handling, whether that's a partnership between the two. We're able to sort of customize those with, like it says here, a customizable tech stack. These programmatic solutions have to be API first. They have to be omni-channel. That's really our entire philosophy approach at Infillion. They need to be future-proofed as well. They need to address accessibility. They need to optimize that customer journey. I keep coming back to that word, but it's as true in programmatic as it is in all of the other parts of the funnel that we work in. They need to optimize performance. They need to take what is sometimes very complex and make it simple for clients to use. AI is the buzzword of the year, clearly, and probably will be for some time to come. But it needs to be a part of this mix as well. And we're playing in that space now. We've acquired another company that is based in Canada that is an AI-focused company as well. It's really, I think, the future of what we're doing, not just in the programmatic space, but it's going to influence all of our other product sets as well. And then really, this needs to be achieved across all of the verticals and all of the channels. So I know we're concentrated mainly on digital out of home here as a subject set today, but it does have to include all of those other product sets. I talked a little bit about integration in the business. I think the more that we can integrate in advertising and create a place where advertising is working together and not against each other channel to channel, the better off we're all going to be. I will quickly just go through two last slides here because I know we're coming up on time. I wanted to get through a little bit of how we use this measurement and how we plan to use this on the programmatic side. So we talked a bit about Uplift as a place for TrueX with sort of that single question real-time feedback. We're going to do the same thing on the programmatic side as well. We'll have in-flight reporting, as you can see. So campaign performance, full site transparency, geofence performance, technology reporting, reach and frequency, all of the other metrics that we're providing via these other approaches will be options via MediaMath as a platform as well. And really, our goal is to use MediaMath as our core DSP to enhance all of our other product sets as well. So it's not just a programmatic solution, it's an additive solution, I think, to everything else that we've talked about in this presentation here. And I'll end on this slide here. Talking about brand funnel impact, we talked a little bit at the start of this about how we use this approach and specific questions that we'll use, regardless of whether it's online, boots on the ground, or via a product like Uplift, like we just talked about in the last slide. The goal here is to show the true impact of what we're doing, to be robust, to be efficient, to be contextual. It is important, I think, that we are able to provide comparisons back to our clients as well. Our goal, like I said, at the end of the day, is to really reach the KPIs that our clients have and to meet them at the place they need to be. And so we're constantly innovating, constantly using these products to try to figure out a better way to measure and a better way to prove impact. Obviously, I think everybody on this call believes in the impact of the medium that we work in. And we just want to prove that the best way that we can to our clients. And appreciate the entire industry's help in making that happen. So that's the end of my presentation here. I'm happy to turn it back over to Blake or to Barry if you guys have questions you want to throw in.
Yeah, thank you, Troy. That was great. Troy, how would out-of-home companies work best with Infillion? So if I have it right, there's kind of two buckets. There's the attribution and slash optimization, and then there's the media math part. On the first part, like what are the steps for an out-of-home company to engage, and are they running a campaign that they would measure? Can it be used to pitch campaigns? Just kind of the strategy is great. Can you drill a bit down to the tactics, and then we'll take some questions from anybody else.
Sure. We typically work on flighted campaigns. So we're very much an insertion order based business. We are generally not doing longer term campaigns. And the reason for that is we really saw a need, I think, in the marketplace to serve brands in very specific places, specific campaign product launches. I work a lot in entertainment. If you're a movie studio, you don't want to promote a movie for 2.5 years, right? You want to promote a movie for the 4 weeks before it's opening, right? So we've found very specific places where we can create flighted access across our full product set. And as a managed service, we're providing exactly what a client is looking for and not the waste that is often associated with that, whether that's in the out-of-home space, whether that's via our digital products, et cetera. Our goal is to create a very specific response that a client is looking for. So you can always contact me. If I'm not the right person to point you in the right direction, I certainly can point you towards somebody else. But I'm always happy to have those conversations and figure out, how to make a good fit for a client.